Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to After Death, Hell and Heaven Finally Explained. Rebirth, Mind and Hell, Heaven, said Guru Adiyogi. So very odd picture right there. Not exactly what you would think you'd see on this channel. And especially with that, So anyways, obviously I don't think this is necessarily officially Sadhguru's channel, but I'm not too sure. And so I'm curious as to, what is it? Hell Explained, as it says up there. Anyways, I was going to give this video a shot.
Because at the moment of leaving, in case he is in a certain mode, whatever the mode is, let's say he is in fear mode right now. Now once he loses the discriminatory mind, now there is no control over the fear. See, many times fear arises in your life. Because of your discriminatory mind, you'll say, that's okay, but that's not like this. You'll reason and try to get out of it. If there is no discriminatory mind, it just snowballs into paranoia. Paranoia not like as living human beings know. Paranoia which grows into a million, billion folds because there's complete absence of discriminatory mind. But suppose you create pleasantness at that moment of death, now this pleasantness also multiplies into a millionfold over because there is no discriminatory mind.
As a matter of fact, as I drive to work or I drive around, I'm lucky enough to have Android Auto, so I have my audiobook playing with Sadhguru. Instead of listening to the radio, I'm listening to Sadhguru's Inner Engineering book. And he talks a lot, and a lot of it's just literally, it's mostly common sense stuff. But the funny thing is we don't realize it. And a lot of people, these are common sense things. If you just really think about it, sit there and think about it. But somehow we've all lost it. It's just genuinely amazing. And then for him to talk about this, it's like, yeah, obviously, why don't we know this? And also this applies to a lot of other people too. But yes, and this is also very interesting. I did not realize that. It's very interesting where if you lose your discriminatory mind, things just go out of control because you don't discriminate. You don't try to. And as a matter of fact, he was talking about this in the last section I was watching or listening to. Sorry, in the Inner Engineering book. It's the discriminatory mind is the logical mind. So once you remove logic, you just spiral out of control. But in that one, he was talking about how it goes into the bad paranoia, all the bad things essentially. But then what happens if you do that for the good stuff? Okay, now I'm starting to understand a little bit about bliss and like eternal bliss at that point when it goes. But I don't know how that happens. But when you have that thing constantly growing, this greatness of goodness growing inside you, the blissness, I suppose you could say, and it's just unconstrained by your discriminatory mind or the logical mind. At least if I understood the audiobook correctly. And let's see what he says here.
So now that you mention it, let me ask you another question, because I travel a lot in the West and I have no answer, and I find it a silly question, so I'm going to ask you a silly question. What happens to that energy once the body is gone? Is there individuality after the end of the body? Do I exist as I? Do I have a soul? Is there reincarnation? Or is it just my ego that is saying, actually, even when I let my body go, there is an I that still exists, but if that I then forms part of the larger universe, then it has no identity. It's a question, and I can't answer it to people, so would you answer it for me so I can tell people that I'm quite wise now?
I know what you'll do with this. So, essentially you're saying you want to know what happens after death.
Yeah, I'm just making a more intellectual argument about it, that's all, but the fundamental question is that.
What I would say is some things you know best only by experience.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're not ready for the experience. So you just want to know for entertainment. Maybe they make a movie on it, or just to talk in the next party that you're in.
Yeah.
It could buy you friends.
So humor me.
It could buy you, buy you audience.
So humor me a little bit and let's talk about it a little bit.
Okay. Right now you're looking at me. If you close your eyes, you cannot see me. But you are still there, isn't it? So right now, is it you who is looking at me? Or is it your eyes which are looking at me? So it's you who is looking at me.
Yeah.
Through the window of your eyes, you're
Yes.
looking at me.
Yes.
If you close the window,
Yeah.
do you still exist?
I still exist.
So, you are clearly saying you are much more than the body, isn't it?
Right. But maybe that's my memory of you, of what I saw.
No, not what you… whether you see my image or not, that's not the point.
Hmm.
But you are there, isn't it?
I'm there, yes.
So you are clearly saying, I am much more than the body.
Yes.
And you also know very clearly that this body you slowly accumulated.
Yes.
Or in other words, what you call as my body is just a bit of loan that you have taken from Mother Earth.
I like how he keeps saying this, and even in the audiobook he says this quite a lot. But I think a lot of people do not realize this, and I didn't even realize this. You know, that the fact that this body is literally just material from the earth. Even whenever, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Astrophysics black guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, said that we're part of the cosmos because we are also created out of stuff of the cosmos. Well, I do agree with that, but I still never thought about it as this body being like what we eat is part of the body, even though I know that. Like the food gets turned in, the proteins and everything gets turned into that, but I just never connected the fact that what we eat becomes the body. What I realize in my mind is what we eat, our body uses to create the body, but for some odd reason those two never connected until Sadhguru keeps saying that, repeated over and over again.
Just a piece of the planet. She's pretty generous.
No, it's very generous. Yeah.
She's pretty generous with the loan. But when the time comes, she wants to collect it atom by atom. So what is being perceived as death right now is people who don't want to repay the loan. You know, these are all people who don't want to repay the loan.
All right.
Most,
Okay.
Not yet.
I like the
Most people-
transaction analysis of that.
most people who have taken loan, unless there is a law to compel them, they wouldn't want to pay back the loan.
Right.
It's a general social tendency in the world.
Okay.
So, you've taken a loan from the planet, you don't want to pay back. When the time to pay back comes, they're all terrorized. After all, you're just paying back a loan. But why the terror is happening is simply because you took a loan and after some time you thought, I am the loan.
Right.
Quite a ridiculous situation actually.
I can see that. Okay.
See, now I hold this pebble in my hand.
Yeah.
Initially I say, this is my pebble, I'm not willing to give it to you. After some time, I start thinking, this is me. Now when the time comes that anyway this pebble is going to be taken from me, I am being terrorized because I am being taken away. You are not being taken away. Only the food that you gathered, the piece of planet that you gathered in the form of this body, the planet is asking it back. If only you were aware this is only something I've accumulated, not intellectually. Every moment if you are constantly aware that I am not this body, this is just mine, all right. This is just a gathering. I've accumulated this, I'll use it, and when it's necessary, I'll drop it. If this awareness was there all the time in your life, death would be just change of clothes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's actually more simple than that. So what happens after? Okay, I paid back the loan. The question is only willingly or unwillingly, but whichever way, the loan gets taken. So when the body is confiscated, if you're a yogi, you will pay it back gracefully.
Yeah.
If you are an ignorant person, they'll confiscate your properties because you're illegally holding it beyond a certain time, they'll confiscate. So what happens after? Your body, as you know it, physical body has to go to the earth because it belongs to the earth. But there is a subtler body which is like a scaffolding. Only because the subtle body is there as a scaffolding, you can build this gross body. You eat a banana, it becomes body, you eat a piece of bread, it becomes body, you eat a brinjal, it becomes body, because there is a subtler scaffolding. This body that you see, the physical body, is only gathering around the subtler body. So when this body falls, the subtle body, which is generally referred to as etheric body or whatever else, is still on. It still has some information, but the important difference is, when you had a physical body and a conscious mind, you had a discriminatory capability. So once the body falls down along with your thinking mind, logical mind, and a discriminatory aspect of the mind is fallen, there is no more discrimination. You only happen by tendencies. So still there are certain tendencies. Why so much care in every culture, particularly in this culture, that at the moment of death, if a man is dying, no matter what your relationship with him, you try to utter the God's name or you try to create the right kind of atmosphere for him. Even if he's your enemy, you say Ram, Nam, Satya, whatever, whatever simple things have been taught to the people, but something to create awareness and pleasantness around him because you want him to leave well. Because at the moment of leaving, in case he is in a certain mode, whatever the mode is, let's say he's in fear mode right now. Now once he loses the discriminatory mind, now there's no control over the fear. See, many times fear arises in your life. Because of your discriminatory mind, you'll say, that's okay, but that it's not like this. You'll reason and try to get out of it. If there is no discriminatory mind, it just snowballs into paranoia. Paranoia not like as living human beings know. Paranoia which grows into a million, billion folds because there's complete absence of discriminatory mind. But suppose you create pleasantness at that moment of death, now this pleasantness also multiplies into a millionfold over because there is no discriminatory mind. A child is eating chocolate, very sweet. He has no discriminatory mind. His discriminatory mind is not strong enough. Okay, I've eaten 2 chocolates, it's enough. No, he wants to eat 2,000. Whether it's sweetness or bitterness, pleasantness or unpleasantness, all of this can take on a big proportion if only there is no discriminatory mind. So even when people are living, very little of their discriminatory mind they're using, mostly they're functioning by tendency, which is unfortunate. But once you have shed the body, there is no other way. You will only go by tendency. Unless you've reached a certain level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you. Otherwise, whatever is your quality will snowball into something very big. If it snowballs into unpleasantness, we say he's in hell. If it snowballs into pleasantness, we say he's in heaven. So heaven and hell are not geographical places. It is a state that somebody gets into. Because once the discriminatory mind is removed, smallest pleasure can multiply into a heavenly proportion. Smallest unpleasantness can multiply into a hell-like situation because the discriminatory mind is absent.
I have to watch that last part again. Hold on. Pleasantness.
Level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you. Otherwise, whatever is your quality will snowball into something very big. If it snowballs into unpleasantness, we say he's in hell. If it snowballs into pleasantness, we say he's in heaven. So heaven and hell are not geographical places. It is a state that somebody gets into. Because once the discriminatory mind is removed, smallest pleasure can multiply into a heavenly proportion. Smallest unpleasantness can multiply into a hell-like situation because the discriminatory mind is absent.
Let's run a little bit more, turn this unpleasant.
Or bitterness, pleasantness or
Sorry.
unpleasantness. All of this can take on a big proportion if only there is no discriminatory mind. So even when people are living, very little of the discriminatory mind they're using, mostly they're functioning by tendency, which is unfortunate. But once you have shed the body, there is no other way. You will only go by tendency. Unless you've reached a certain level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you. Otherwise, whatever is your quality will snowball into something very…
Yeah, that's why it didn't really make too much sense the first time. So when he said, I think it's right here, it says, if only there is no discriminatory mind. Oh, wait.
So even when
even
people are living, very little of the discriminatory mind they're using.
Very little of their discriminatory mind they are using. They're using very little of their… If I remember correctly from the audiobook, discriminatory mind and the logical mind are the same. Logical mind says that I am this, that's that, you know, everything objective.
Mostly they're functioning by tendency, which is unfortunate.
And tendency here is something he never really I don't remember him talking about in the rest of this video, so I have no reference into what he means by tendencies. I'm guessing that, you know, if you have an urge for something or you tend to act some ways, it's your tendencies. I'm not sure if he means it a different way or just literally tendencies.
But once you have shed the body, there is no other way. You will only go by tendency.
Okay.
Unless you've reached a certain level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you.
Oh.
Otherwise, whatever is your quality will snowball into something very big. Whatever is…
Oh, sorry. I think I get it now.
Unless you've reached a certain level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you. Otherwise, whatever is your quality will snowball into something very big.
Okay, so I think what is… let me know if I'm right. Where's that at? What you have… So, discriminatory mind. The reason why he said that they use… hold on, let me rewind it just a little more. Sorry, so even when people are living…
very little of the discriminatory mind they're using.
In the audiobook, now that I listen to audiobook, the logical mind, the discriminatory mind, is something that Jnana Yoga uses. And they use that to an extreme degree so they don't identify. But discriminatory mind, the logical mind, is a way to say that I am not this, I am not that, I am not that. It's very much very logical, saying that what you are not. That's the discriminatory mind. So the reason why they use very little is because they used to say, oh yeah, you know, this object is not me. But they don't go, they only use so little because they don't go as far as to say this body is not me, this mind is not me, the thoughts are not me, the emotions are not me. That's the reason why it's very little, is because they fail to keep going deeper into the discriminatory mind as to say, I am not the thoughts, I am not the emotions, I am not the body, I am not the mind. Okay, that makes sense. Once you have shed the body, then there's no other way to go but tendencies. And I guess without the discriminatory mind, you're nothing but tendencies here, I'm guessing is what he's saying. So, is this purely emotion? And based on what your last emotion, or based on your tendencies of your emotions perhaps, that you just go deeper into it because you have no way of, you have no logical mind to pull you back to say, oh, this is going too far, or anything like that, unless you reach a certain level of awareness. And a certain level of awareness here is… there's not a way you're willing to go by tendencies.
You will only go by tendency. Unless you've reached a certain level of awareness where you can carry a certain dimension of awareness with you. Otherwise…
And I guess a certain level of awareness, I'm sure it's a certain level of being, what is that, liberated, moksha, awareness really is awareness. Like if you become aware that you're not the body, once you gain a certain level of that, you will not suffer to a degree, I suppose. I think that's what he's getting at there.
Whatever is your quality will snowball into something very big. If it snowballs into unpleasantness, we say he's in hell. If it snowballs into pleasantness, we say he's in heaven. So heaven and hell are not geographical places. It is a state that somebody gets into. Because once the discriminatory mind is removed, smallest pleasure can multiply into a heavenly…
Yeah, okay, so I wonder how you remove the discriminatory mind. Maybe perhaps what he's saying here is the fact that when you start doing whatever yoga it may be, and perhaps this is what he's talking about, like certain yogas being quite dangerous, where if you remove the discriminatory mind, whatever your tendencies are, whether it be something really evil or terrible or saddening, you tumble into it and become very extremely depressed or extremely mad. Just your emotions, whatever it may be, whether it be good or bad, just multiplies exponentially. Is that what he's saying here? Is the fact that once the logical mind is removed, you go purely based on emotion or tendencies, and hopefully that's a good thing and not a bad thing, because you will fall deep into it. And this is something I had to listen to Sadhguru's, luckily enough, Sadhguru's inner engineering audiobook, which now watching this I make a better understanding of it, because he did say discriminatory mind in there as the logical mind, as something that's purely well, not purely based, but based on Jnana Yoga. Huh. And again, whenever it says discriminatory mind, it's very difficult for me to… there's been said a few times, not too many, but I don't have enough of a description of what is a discriminatory mind according to Sadhguru. But now after the audiobook of Inner Engineering, I understand a discriminatory mind to be the logical mind, which is generally followed by which is generally practiced by Jnana Yoga to describe what you are not. So once you remove the things that you are not, and you start associating everything as who you are, but if it's in the bad tendencies, you tend to fall into that, at least from what I'm understanding here.
Smallest pleasure can multiply into a heavenly proportion. Smallest unpleasantness can multiply into a hell-like situation because the discriminatory mind is absent.
Let me know, did I understand that correctly? I think that's what it's meant, as best as I understand it, but let me know in the comments below. So anyways, that's my reaction to… I was wondering when he was going to get to that, and he didn't explain rebirth, though. Well, kinda, a little bit he did. But he really did go into the fact of, or at least maybe that's just me, about the discriminatory mind being absent and then you falling into your tendencies or into perhaps your emotions or whatever it may be. So anyways, that's my reaction to After Death, Hell, and Heaven. Finally explained rebirth, mind in hell, heaven, Sadhguru Adiyogi. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.